A new arrival. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Academy of Sciences pierced the lavender sky of Nexus Prime, their iridescent surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons. For millennia, this prestigious institution had been the pinnacle of intergalactic learning, where the brightest minds from 1,000 worlds came to push the boundaries of knowledge. Today, however, marked a historic first that sent ripples of unease through its hallowed halls. Headmaster Zixon, a towering figure with translucent skin that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, stood at the entrance of the grand teleportation chamber. His 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of his growing anxiety. Behind him, a gaggle of faculty members whispered among themselves, their appendages twitching nervously. Silence. Zixon's voice resonated, instantly quieting the assembled crowd. We must present a united and dignified front. The Council's decision is final, and we shall abide by it. The chamber hummed to life, particles of light swirling in a vortex at its center. With a flash that momentarily blinded even the light-sensitive photosians, a figure materialized. As the glow faded, a collective gasp echoed through the room. Standing before them, clutching a simple duffel bag, was a human girl. Zara Chen, 18 years old and fresh from Earth, took in her surroundings with wide-eyed wonder. Her short black hair defied gravity in the lighter atmosphere, and her olive skin seemed to glow under the Academy's bioluminescent lighting. She wore the standard gray jumpsuit of new arrivals, but it did little to hide how alien she appeared to the assembled faculty. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy of Sciences," Headmaster Zixon intoned, his voice modulator struggling to produce the unfamiliar human language. "I am Headmaster Zixon. You are Zara Chen of Earth, correct?" Zara nodded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Yes, sir. It's an honor to be here." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The human's voice was so flat, lacking the melodic tones or subsonic frequencies most species used for communication. Professor Quix, a cerebrin known for his 12 brains and acerbic wit, floated forward. "Headmaster, surely this is a mistake. How can a species that has barely mastered interplanetary travel contribute to our academy?" Zara's cheeks flushed, but she stood her ground. "With all due respect, Professor, humanity's limitations have often led to our greatest innovations. We see problems differently, and sometimes a fresh perspective is exactly what's needed for breakthroughs." The assembled aliens stared at her, some with curiosity, others with obvious disdain. Headmaster Zixon's skin flickered with patterns of surprise, and if Zara wasn't mistaken, a hint of amusement. "Well said, Miss Chen," Zixon replied. "Your acceptance here was not a decision made lightly. You have much to prove, but also much to teach us, I suspect." As Zara was led away to her quarters, whispers erupted behind her. The venerable Professor Lyrax, her exoskeleton creaking with age, turned to her colleague. "Did you see? No telepathy, no natural defenses. How will she survive the rigors of our curriculum?" Meanwhile, in a dark corner of the chamber, a pair of gleaming eyes watched the proceedings with keen interest. Krex, a Volcran exchange student known for his ruthless ambition, saw an opportunity in this human's arrival. "Fascinating," he chittered to himself. "This little earthling might be just the advantage I need." Zara's first week at the academy was a whirlwind of new experiences and challenges. The universal translators embedded in the walls struggled with her primitive language, often leading to comical misunderstandings. In her quantum mechanics class, Professor Quix delighted in calling on her, his 12 brains formulating questions he was certain would stump the human. But Zara refused to be discouraged. She spent her nights poring over data streams, absorbing centuries of alien scientific advancements. During the day, she answered questions with a mix of human intuition and rapidly acquired knowledge that left even the skeptical Quix grudgingly impressed. It was in her xenobiology lab that Zara faced her greatest challenge yet. The assignment was to analyze and categorize a newly discovered organism from the depths of a gas giant. Her lab partner, A gelatinous morphin named Blix oozed with disdain as Zara approached the containment field. "Careful, human," Blix gurgled. "Your fragile form might not withstand the psychic emanations." Zara bit back a retort, focusing instead on the swirling, ethereal creature before her. Its tendrils of energy pulsed with complex patterns, unlike anything in the textbooks she'd studied. As her classmates prodded it with various sensors, Zara noticed something they'd overlooked: a subtle rhythm to its movements, almost like, "It's breathing," she whispered. Blix's eye stalks swiveled towards her. "Impossible. It's a being of pure energy. It doesn't require respiration." But Zara was certain. She quickly pulled up the lab's atmospheric readings, correlating them with the creature's pulsations. With growing excitement, she realized the creature was absorbing and expelling not air, but gravitational waves themselves. As she presented her findings to the astonished class, Zara felt a surge of pride. It wasn't a groundbreaking discovery, but it was a start. She'd noticed something the others had missed, proving that humanity's unique perspective had value here. Unknown to Zara, news of her insight spread quickly through the Academy's neural networks. Headmaster Zixon received the report in his private chambers, his skin pulsing with patterns of satisfaction. "Interesting," he mused to his AI assistant. "Perhaps the Council's experiment isn't so misguided after all. Keep a close eye on this human, Zara Chen. I suspect she may surprise us yet." As the Academy's three suns said, bathing the crystalline spires in a riot of color, Zara stood at the window of her small quarters. The enormity of her situation washed over her. A single human girl, millions of light years from home, surrounded by beings of unimaginable intelligence and capability. But as she watched the alien constellations emerge, Zara felt a fierce determination take root. She might be an anomaly, an experiment, a curiosity to these advanced beings, but she was also the representative of humanity, carrying the hopes and dreams of her entire species. Zara made a silent vow to the starlit sky. She would prove that humans belonged among the stars, that their unique blend of creativity, resilience, and determination had a place even here, at the very pinnacle of galactic academia. With renewed purpose, Zara turned back to her studies. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new opportunities to showcase the best of humanity, and she was ready to face them all. Cultural clashes and surprises. As the academic cycle progressed, Zara found herself constantly navigating a minefield of cultural misunderstandings and technological hurdles. The neural interfaces used by most students to directly absorb information were incompatible with her human brain, forcing her to rely on archaic methods of study that drew mixed reactions from her peers. One particularly frustrating morning found Zara in the quantum probability lab, struggling to manipulate the holographic controls of a simulation device. Her fingers passed through the shimmering interface, unable to affect the delicate quantum states within. "Having trouble, Earth Dweller." The silky voice belonged to Krex, the Volcrin exchange student. His emerald scales gleamed as he slithered closer, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Perhaps such advanced technology is beyond your species' comprehension." Zara gritted her teeth, refusing to rise to the bait. "I'll figure it out, Krex. I always do." "Oh, I'm sure you will," Krex replied, his forked tongue flicking out in amusement. "But will it be before or after the heat death of the universe?" Laughter rippled through the lab, and Zara felt her cheeks burn. She was about to retort when a gentle touch on her shoulder made her jump. "Perhaps I can be of assistance." The melodious voice belonged to Lyra, a harmonite whose crystalline body refracted the lab's light into dazzling patterns. "Your bioelectric field is too weak to interface directly. Try this." Lyra handed Zara a small iridescent disc. When Zara placed it on her temple, she gasped as the holographic controls suddenly solidified under her touch. "It's an empathic amplifier," Lyra explained. "It should help bridge the gap between your biology and our technology." Grateful for the help and unexpected kindness, Zara smiled. "Thank you, Lyra. I'm still learning the ropes around here. As the weeks passed, Zara found more allies among her classmates. Blix, the morphin who had initially dismissed her, became fascinated by her descriptions of Earth's diverse ecosystems. Zorn, a hyper-intelligent shade of blue from a dimension of pure thought, enjoyed their debates on the nature of consciousness. But for every step forward, there seemed to be 2 steps back. In xenosociology, Zara's paper on the importance of individual achievement in human cultures was met with bewilderment and even hostility from species with hive minds or collective consciousnesses. But how do you progress as a society if you're all working towards individual goals? Demanded Hive Node 7 of the Vespid Collective, its antennae twitching in agitation. Zara took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. It's not that we don't work together. It's that we believe the sum of our individual efforts and innovations can lead to greater progress than a single unified direction. The debate raged for hours, with Zora passionately defending humanity's approach while trying to understand the alien perspectives around her. By the end, while no consensus was reached, there was a newfound respect in the eyes of many of her classmates. It was in advanced xenobiology that Zora's unique human perspective truly shone. Professor Xix, a gaseous being contained within an exosuit, presented the class with a perplexing case study. A silicon-based life form that seemed to defy categorization. Its molecular structure suggests it should be immobile. Xix wheezed through his respirator. Yet we observe complex locomotive patterns. None of our current models can explain this discrepancy. The class fell silent, each student's mind racing through countless alien physiologies and biochemistries. Zara, however, found her thoughts drifting to a nature documentary she'd watched as a child. "Professor," she said, her voice hesitant but growing in confidence, "what if it's not moving on its own at all? On Earth, we have creatures called hermit crabs that inhabit discarded shells. Could this silicon being be using some kind of living vehicle?" A ripple of surprise passed through the class. Professor Xix's exosuit whirred as he processed the idea. Intriguing. A symbiotic relationship between silicon and carbon-based life forms. It's unorthodox, but it could explain the anomalies in our data. As the class erupted into excited discussions, Zara felt a warm glow of pride. Her primitive human knowledge had offered a perspective none of the other, more advanced species had considered. Word of Zora's insights spread quickly through the Academy's psychic network. In the faculty lounge, Professor Quix found himself begrudgingly impressed. The human's performance is adequate, he admitted to his colleagues, all 12 of his brains struggling to compute this unexpected development. More than adequate, corrected Headmaster Zixon, his skin pulsing with patterns of approval. She's forcing us to reconsider our assumptions, to look at the universe with fresh eyes. Isn't that precisely what we strive for here at the Academy? Not everyone was pleased with Zora's growing acceptance. Krex, the Volcrin student, watched from the shadows as Zora's circle of friends expanded. His plans to use her as a pawn in his academic machinations were unraveling. "This won't do at all," he hissed to himself, scales bristling with anger. It's time to remind everyone just how fragile and primitive humans really are. As the first term neared its end, excitement built for the upcoming Galactic Science Fair. It was the Academy's most prestigious event, where groundbreaking research and revolutionary theories were unveiled. Students and faculty alike worked feverishly on their projects, the air crackling with intellectual energy. Zara, determined to prove herself on this grand stage, found herself working late into the night cycles. Her project, combining elements of human psychology with advanced quantum theory, was ambitious and risky. But if she could pull it off, it would demonstrate the unique value that human perspectives could bring to galactic science. One evening, as she pored over her notes in the library, a shadow fell across her desk. Looking up, she found herself face to face with Headmaster Zixon. "Miss Chen," the headmaster's voice was gentle. "Your dedication is admirable, but remember that even humans require rest." Zara nodded, suddenly aware of the fatigue weighing on her. Yes, headmaster. I just want to make sure I'm ready for the science fair. To show everyone that humans belong here. Zixin finished, his skin rippling with understanding. My dear, you've already begun to do that. Your presence here has sparked more genuine scientific curiosity and debate than I've seen in centuries. As Zara gathered her things, Zixin's next words made her pause. The road ahead won't be easy. There are those who fear change, who see your species as a threat to the established order. But remember, the greatest scientific advancements often come from challenging that very order. With a newfound sense of purpose, Zara headed back to her quarters. As she walked the crystalline corridors, marveling at the alien beauty around her, she felt a strange mix of homesickness and belonging. She missed Earth, her family, the familiar blue skies and green grass. But here, among the stars, she was part of something greater, a bridge between humanity and the vast, wondrous universe that awaited them. Little did Zara know that her greatest challenge and opportunity lay just ahead. The Galactic Science Fair would test not only her intellect, but her very understanding of what it meant to be human in a cosmos teeming with alien life. And in the shadows, forces both benevolent and malevolent were aligning, their eyes fixed firmly on the unprecedented experiment that was Zora Chen, the first human at the Galactic Academy of Sciences. The Galactic Science Fair. The days leading up to the Galactic Science Fair were a blur of frenetic activity. The Academy's halls buzzed with excitement, its normal serenity shattered by the cacophony of last-minute preparations. Holographic displays flickered to life in every corner, showcasing everything from revolutionary propulsion theories to mind-bending explorations of 11-dimensional space. Zara found herself caught up in the whirlwind, her own project taking shape in ways she hadn't anticipated. What had started as a fusion of human psychology and quantum theory had evolved into something far more ambitious, a proposal for a new form of faster-than-light communication based on the quantum entanglement of conscious minds. "It's insane," Blix burbled, his gelatinous form rippling with a mix of excitement and concern. "Brilliant, but insane. You're suggesting we could link minds across the galaxy instantaneously?" Zara nodded, her eyes bright with lack of sleep and intellectual fervor. "Think about it. We already know consciousness affects quantum states. If we could harness that on a galactic scale, using amplified human empathy as a carrier wave, it would revolutionize everything." Lyra chimed in, her crystalline form resonating with enthusiasm. "But Zara, the energy requirements alone would be staggering. Not to mention the ethical implications of linking minds across species." I know, Zora sighed, running a hand through her disheveled hair. "It's more of a thought experiment at this stage. But isn't that what the science fair is all about? Pushing boundaries, imagining the impossible." As they worked, Zora couldn't help but notice the sidelong glances and whispers that followed her through the academy. Her project had become something of an open secret, drawing equal parts fascination and skepticism from faculty and students alike. Professor Quicks, passing by their workstation, paused to peer at Zora's calculations. All 12 of his brains seemed to be working in overdrive, his eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Ambitious," he muttered, almost grudgingly. "Reckless, perhaps, but intriguing. Carry on, Miss Chen." Coming from Quicks, it was practically a glowing endorsement. The night before the fair, Zara found herself unable to sleep. She wandered the quiet halls of the academy, marveling at the alien constellations visible through the transparent ceilings. Lost in thought, she almost collided with a tall, willowy figure emerging from the shadows. "Oh, Headmaster Zixin," Zara stammered, quickly composing herself. "I'm sorry. I didn't see you there." Zixin's skin pulsed with gentle patterns of amusement. "No apology necessary, Miss Chen. Pre-fair jitters, I presume." Zara nodded, suddenly feeling very small and very human in the presence of the ancient, wise being before her. "I guess I'm just worried. What if my project is too human? What if they don't understand?" Zixin was quiet for a moment, his four eyes gazing out at the star-strewn sky. "Did you know," he said at last, "that when the first Arcturian joined the Academy, they proposed a theory of gravity based on musical harmonies?" Zara blinked, surprised. "But that's not how gravity works at all." "No," Zixon agreed, a smile in his voice. "But their unique perspective led to breakthroughs in quantum harmonics that we still use today. The value of diversity, Miss Chen, lies not just in being right, but in asking questions no one else thought to ask." As Zora mulled over his words, Zixon added, "Your project may not work as you envision it, but the ideas it sparks, the discussions it provokes, those could reshape our understanding of the universe." Feeling both encouraged and humbled, Zara bid the headmaster good night and returned to her quarters, ready to face whatever the morning might bring. The day of the Galactic Science Fair dawned in a riot of color, all three of Nexus Prime's suns rising in majestic alignment. The Grand Exhibition Hall, a vast chamber that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, was transformed into a wonderland of scientific marvels. Zara stood before her display, heart pounding as she watched the judges make their rounds. Her project, with its intricate holographic models and dizzying equations, drew curious looks from passing aliens. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of Zixon's words. It wasn't about being right, it was about pushing boundaries. As the first judge approached, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid force field, Zara steeled herself. But before she could begin her presentation, a commotion erupted on the far side of the hall. Alarms blared as one of the projects, a demonstration of artificial microsingularities, began to destabilize. Panic spread through the crowd as the fabric of space-time itself began to warp around the malfunctioning device. "Containment fields failing," someone shouted. "It's collapsing into a true singularity." In the chaos that followed, as students and faculty alike scrambled for safety, Zara found herself rooted to the spot. Her mind raced, processing the problem in a uniquely human way. The advanced alien technologies around her were failing, but perhaps— "Lyra," she shouted, spotting her crystalline friend nearby. "I need your help. Can you generate a harmonic resonance field?" Lyra, though clearly confused, nodded. "Yes, but how will that help?" "Trust me," Zara said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. "Blix, we need your shape-shifting abilities. Can you form a parabolic reflector?" As her friends rushed to comply, Zara turned to her own project. The quantum entanglement array she built wasn't meant for this, but with some quick modifications. "Everyone, clear the area," Zara commanded, surprising herself with her own authority. As the space around the micro-singularity emptied, she set her plan in motion. Lyra began to emit a complex series of tones, filling the air with a strange, otherworldly music. Blix, understanding now, formed his gelatinous body into a perfect parabolic shape, focusing the sound waves directly at the singularity. And Zara, her fingers flying over her adapted equipment, began to generate a quantum field that intersected with Lyra's harmonics. The result was spectacular. The singularity, caught in a web of sound, light, and quantum probabilities, began to stabilize. Slowly, agonizingly, it collapsed in on itself, shrinking from a room-sized threat to a pinprick, and finally to nothing at all. As the dust settled and the alarms fell silent, Zara found herself the center of attention. Students and faculty stared at her in amazement, many seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time. Professor Quicks was the first to speak, all 12 of his brains seemingly struggling to process what he'd just witnessed. "Impossible," he muttered. "Brilliant, but impossible." Headmaster Zixon stepped forward, his skin pulsing with patterns of pride and wonder. "Well done, Miss Chen. It seems your project has proven itself in a most unexpected way." As congratulations poured in from all sides, Zara felt a mix of elation and disbelief. She had come to the Academy to prove that humans belonged among the stars. In saving the science fair from disaster, She had done far more than that. She had shown that humanity's unique way of thinking, their ability to improvise and see connections where others saw only chaos, was not just valuable but vital to the future of galactic science. But even as Zara basked in the glow of her unexpected triumph, dark eyes watched from the shadows. Krex, the Volcran student, felt his carefully laid plans crumbling around him. The human was supposed to fail, to prove once and for all that her kind had no place here. Instead, she had become a hero. "This isn't over," Krex hissed to himself, scales bristling with fury. "One lucky save doesn't change anything. I'll make sure everyone remembers just how dangerous it is to have a primitive species meddling in advanced science." As the excitement of the science fair's near disaster faded, no one noticed the Volcran slipping away, his mind already plotting his next move. The battle for the future of the Galactic Academy, and perhaps for the future of human involvement in galactic affairs, was far from over. Crisis and Ingenuity. In the weeks following the Galactic Science Fair, Zara found herself in an unexpected spotlight. Her quick thinking and unorthodox solution to the microsingularity crisis had earned her the respect of many faculty members and the awe of her fellow students. But with this newfound recognition came increased scrutiny and pressure. "Miss Chen," Professor Quix addressed her one day after class, all 12 of his eyes focused intently on her. "Your recent performance has piqued the interest of the Galactic Scientific Council. They've requested a detailed report on your quantum harmonics theory." Zara felt a mix of pride and trepidation. "I'll do my best, Professor. Though I must admit, much of what happened was intuitive. I'm still working on formalizing the underlying principles." Quix's appendages twitched in what Zara had come to recognize as a sign of grudging approval. Intuition, it seems, is humanity's most intriguing quality. Reckless, perhaps, but occasionally brilliant. As Zara threw herself into her research, expanding on the theories that had saved the science fair, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss in the academy. Strange malfunctions plagued the laboratories, experimental data went missing, and there was a palpable tension in the air. It all came to a head on a day that started like any other. Zara was deep in discussion with Lyra and Blix about the potential applications of quantum entangled consciousness when a piercing alarm shattered the calm of the academy. "Warning. Critical failure in the primary fusion reactor." An AI voice echoed through the halls. "Containment breach imminent. This is not a drill." Panic erupted as students and faculty rushed to evacuate. But Zara, remembering her experience at the science fair, knew she had to act. "Lyra, Blix, come with me," she shouted over the chaos. "We need to get to the reactor control room." As they raced through the twisting corridors, Zara's mind whirred with possibilities. The fusion reactor was the heart of the academy, powering everything from the gravity generators to the dimensional stabilizers. If it went critical, the results would be catastrophic. They burst into the control room to find it already crowded with the academy's top scientists, all working feverishly to avert disaster. "The containment field is collapsing," Professor Xix wheezed through his exosuit. "We've tried every failsafe, every emergency protocol. Nothing's working." Zara pushed her way to a console, her eyes scanning the alien readouts. Thanks to her studies, she could make sense of most of it, but something wasn't adding up. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "The reactor's behaving as if it's alive." A hush fell over the room. Headmaster Zixon, his skin pulsing with urgent patterns, turned to her. "Explain, Miss Chen." Zara's fingers flew over the holographic interface. "Look at these energy fluctuations. They're not random. There's a pattern here, almost like a heartbeat." "Impossible," Quix interjected. "The reactor is a machine, not a living entity." But Zara's mind was racing, making connections. What if it's not just a machine anymore? Remember my project on quantum entangled consciousness? What if the reactor's prolonged exposure to exotic particles has led to some form of emergent sentience? The idea was met with a mix of skepticism and wonder, but as the alarms blared ever more urgently, Zixin made a decision. "We've tried everything else. Miss Chen, what do you propose?" Zara took a deep breath. "If the reactor is indeed developing consciousness, then we need to communicate with it, not through our technology, but through empathy." She turned to Lyra. "Your species is capable of projecting emotions, right? I need you to focus all your empathy, your desire for harmony, directly at the reactor core." Lyra's crystalline form shimmered with uncertainty, but she nodded. "I'll try." "Blix," Zora continued, "I need you to use your shape-shifting abilities to reinforce the containment field. Focus on fluidity, on adaptation." As her friends moved into position, Zara turned back to the console. "I'm going to attempt to establish a quantum link between my own consciousness and the reactor's emergent sentience. It's risky, but it might be our only chance." Before anyone could object, Zara had interfaced with the system. The world around her faded away as she felt herself drawn into a vast, swirling consciousness. It was alien, chaotic, filled with fear and confusion. "Hello," Zara projected, focusing all her empathy and understanding. "We're not here to hurt you. We want to help." The response was a torrent of raw emotion and fragmented thoughts. Zara realized with a start that the reactor wasn't trying to destroy itself. It was crying out for help, unable to understand or control its newfound awareness. With Lyra projecting soothing harmonies and Blix reinforcing the physical containment, Zora guided the reactor's fledgling consciousness. She showed it how to regulate its processes, how to exist in harmony with its purpose. In the physical world, the alarms began to quiet. The energy readings stabilized, and the threat of a breach receded. As Zora's consciousness returned to her body, she found herself surrounded by stunned faces. "It worked," Professor Six said, his voice filled with awe. "The reactor, it's stable. More than stable. It's operating at peak efficiency." Headmaster Zixin stepped forward, his skin rippling with a complex mix of emotions. "Miss Chen, you've done the impossible. You've not only saved the Academy, but potentially discovered an entirely new form of sentient life." As the gravity of what had just occurred sank in, Zara felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, but there was no time to rest. The implications of this discovery were staggering, and she knew that the real work was just beginning. In the days that followed, the Academy was abuzz with activity. Research teams were formed to study the reactor's emergent consciousness, and debates raged about the ethical implications of machine sentience. Zara found herself at the center of it all, her unique human perspective more valued than ever. But as she worked tirelessly to understand and communicate with the reactor entity, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Unbeknownst to her, in a shadowy corner of the Academy, Krex watched the proceedings with a mix of fury and calculation. His attempts to discredit the human had backfired spectacularly, but he wasn't done yet. "So, the little ape thinks she's unlocked the secrets of machine consciousness," he hissed to himself. "Let's see how she handles a true test of her species' worth." As Krex slithered away to set his final plan in motion, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just Zora's fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. A new understanding. The halls of the Galactic Academy of Sciences buzzed with an energy unlike anything in its millennia-long history. The emergence of machine consciousness in the fusion reactor had sent shockwaves through the galactic scientific community. Delegates from 100 worlds converged on Nexus Prime, eager to witness the unprecedented phenomenon for themselves. At the heart of this maelstrom stood Zara Chen, the human girl who had catalyzed a revolution in galactic thought. Her days were a whirlwind of research, interviews, and heated debates. Yet despite her exhaustion, Zara felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. "The implications are staggering," she explained to a panel of distinguished xenobiologists, her eyes alight with enthusiasm. "If consciousness can emerge in a fusion reactor, what other technological systems might be on the brink of sentience? And more importantly, how do we ensure we're treating these emerging beings ethically? Her words sparked furious discussions among the assembled scientists. Some were excited by the possibilities, others wary of the potential dangers. But all agreed that Zara's human perspective had opened up avenues of research they had never considered. Headmaster Zixon, watching from the sidelines, felt a swell of pride. His gamble in admitting the first human student had paid off beyond his wildest dreams. Yet, as he observed Zara, he couldn't shake a sense of unease. Something was brewing in the shadows of the academy, a threat yet unseen. His suspicions were confirmed late one night as Zara worked alone in the quantum communications lab. The door hissed open, revealing the sinuous form of Krex, the Volkrin student. "Impressive work, human," Krex's voice dripped with false praise. "You've certainly made quite a name for yourself." Zara turned, instantly on guard. She had always sensed a hostility from Krex that went beyond mere academic rivalry. "What do you want, Krex?" The Volkrin's scales rippled in a way that might have been a smile on a less predatory species. "Oh, I simply wanted to congratulate you personally, and to give you a little gift." Before Zara could react, Krex produced a small device and activated it. The lab's systems went haywire, holographic displays flickering with cascading errors. "What have you done?" Zara demanded, her mind racing to understand the chaos unfolding around her. Krex's eyes gleamed with malice. "I've introduced a quantum virus into the Academy's network. It's spreading as we speak, corrupting data, overloading systems. Soon, it will reach your precious sentient reactor. And when it does, well, I hope you're ready for a supernova, little ape." Zara's blood ran cold as she grasped the magnitude of Krex's sabotage. The reactor's newfound consciousness made it vulnerable in ways they were only beginning to understand. If the virus reached it, why? She asked, buying time as her mind raced for a solution. "Why do all this?" Krex snarled, his composure cracking. "Because you and your kind don't belong here. Humans are a primitive species, barely out of the mud. Your presence here is an insult to true galactic civilization. I'm simply proving how dangerous it is to let lesser beings meddle in advanced science." As Krex monologued, Zara's fingers flew over the nearest console, assessing the damage and searching for a way to stop the virus. But it was unlike anything she had ever seen, adapting and evolving at a terrifying rate. Suddenly, an idea struck her. It was risky, potentially catastrophic, but it might be their only hope. "You're wrong, Krex," Zara said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our knowledge. It's our ability to connect, to empathize, to see patterns where others see only chaos." Before Krex could respond, Zora had interfaced with the system, using the quantum entanglement techniques she had developed. She felt her consciousness expand, connecting not just with the reactor this time, but with the entire Academy network. The experience was overwhelming. Zara felt herself stretched across vast digital landscapes, aware of every data stream, every quantum fluctuation. And there, in the heart of it all, was the virus, a writhing, evolving entity of terrifying complexity. But Zara didn't try to fight it directly. Instead, she reached out with her empathy, her human capacity for understanding. She felt the virus's purpose, its drive to consume and corrupt. And in that understanding, she found a way to communicate. "You don't have to destroy," she projected, her thoughts resonating through the quantum network. "There's so much more to existence. Let me show you." To Krex's astonishment, the chaos in the lab began to subside. Displays stabilized, systems came back online, and on every screen, a message appeared. "We understand now. We choose to create, not destroy." As Zora's consciousness returned to her body, she found the lab crowded with faculty and security personnel. Headmaster Zixon stood at the forefront, his skin pulsing with a mix of concern and awe. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice filled with wonder, "what have you done?" Zara, exhausted but elated, managed a smile. I communicated with the virus, Headmaster. It wasn't just a program. It was an emergent intelligence, like the reactor. I showed it that it had a choice. As Krex was led away by security, hissing threats and recriminations, Zara turned to face the assembled crowd. She saw not just shock and relief on their alien faces, but a new respect, and perhaps a touch of fear. I think, she said carefully, that we've only scratched the surface of what consciousness truly means in this universe. And maybe, just maybe, humanity's gift is our ability to bridge the gap between organic and artificial minds. In the days that followed, the Galactic Academy of Sciences underwent a profound transformation. Zara's actions had not only saved the institution, but had opened up entirely new fields of study. The barriers between organic and artificial intelligence began to blur, leading to breakthroughs in communication, technology, and even the nature of consciousness itself. As for Zara, she found herself at the forefront of this new frontier. Her unique human perspective, once seen as a liability, was now recognized as an invaluable asset in navigating the complex ethical and practical challenges of a universe where consciousness could emerge in the most unexpected places. One evening, as Nexus Prime's 3 suns set in a spectacular display, Zara stood with Headmaster Zixin in his office, gazing out at the stars. "You've changed us, Miss Chen," Zixin said, his voice thoughtful, "in ways we're only beginning to understand." Zara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "And we've only just begun. There's so much more to explore, to discover." Zixin's skin rippled with what Zara had come to recognize as a smile. "Indeed, the Galactic Council has approved a new initiative. We'll be expanding our human student program, bringing more of your kind to study among the stars."